Can any of you guys see on Zoom? Can any of you guys see if I'm live? I wonder why it's doing this. Oh, yeah, it's showing there. Okay, I am there. It's just for some reason, it just tells me I'm not. So maybe I'm on a different dimension, which is very apt because that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. Thanks, guys. So hello, welcome to the Quantum Human Revelations. There seems like there's something changing in the permissions that tells me that this video is private and not anybody can see it, but hopefully you can all see it. So if you're there on YouTube, then put a message out so I can actually check that you guys can see me too. And get yourself comfortable, grab yourself a notebook. And I said every week I've been doing these. They've been kind of like a channeling, a transmission, an energy update. I've been sharing the words that are coming through to me that feel like they need to be shared. And it all started, yay, Judy's got me. Yes, I'm live. Thank you, Judy. And the information that I've been sharing since about May, I think this started, has all been about our creativity. And I think as I've gone through each of the episodes, it's kind of given me more insight as to what we need to become as quantum humans, what skills we need to develop, and what we need to start thinking about more. So we talked about being more proactive, not spiritually bypassing, to understand that wanting money isn't the best thing, but it's actually better to focus on your creative energy and strengthening that, because that is what you'll be trading for whatever currency there is in the future. We spoke about time, we spoke about karmic loops all ending. So it's been quite an interesting journey, but I kind of feel like tonight might be the last one of this series. It kind of feels like it's kind of gone round in a full circle, and we're going to come back to that point of completion, and it feels. So what I might do is take a break from November, and I will do energy updates for you on the first Monday of the month, but I won't do every single week during the month, and then perhaps start back at the end of January. That's what I'm thinking at the moment. I feel like these next couple of months, winter months, are going to be a time for us to kind of go within for all of us and start building our lives. Does that make sense? So everything I've been talking about up till now have been the preparation, but now you have to actually do something with everything I've said and start building something and taking action and putting the right people around you, putting the right projects in place. That's what it kind of feels like. I know it's winter time and it's not the normal kind of like go month, but it does feel like there's a more of a physical aspect to what we're meant to do next. And as we step into that physical energy, I think it's getting us ready for the spring, maybe, when we start moving a bit more. But there does feel like winter solstice is going to be an anchoring in of these energies before we shift forward. So with that in mind, I kind of felt that fitted with me wanting to take time off now and start focusing on my own projects a bit more. So yeah, like Marta's saying, planting seeds. It is a bit like planting seeds, but it's a bit more than that. We've been planting seeds up till now, and it's almost like now you have to go and grow those seeds. You have to go and give them the food and the support and the greenhouse, and it's more that phase that we're moving into. So not like fully grown yet, but it's kind of like, you know, sometimes when you plant a seed and it starts sprouting and you think, oh, that's it, I can take my hands off now and walk away. This is saying, well, no, you can't just take your hands off and walk away. This is now like the critical time of manifesting. It's the time where you actually put the extra effort in to take that tiny seed that's sprouting so it can become a full oak tree, I suppose, isn't it? Acorn to oak tree is the typical analogy for that. So it's kind of like making sure the foundations are strong enough to support that big vision, that big tree that you're trying to grow. So that's kind of what it feels like it's going to be for the next few months. So I'll come back on the first Monday of every month and I'll give you the energy readings that I'm getting. If you do want to work with me more, then I still have my full moons running every month, so you can always join me for those. And that's looking at the journey of the soul from the ether into the body, learning how to be human, and then going back to becoming how to balance the soul and the personality. So I'll do those every month anyway. That's part of my membership. I'll put a link underneath this video so you can tune into that. But where we're at right now is that last week we did energy, a very simple introduction to energy and the power of energy, because I want people to understand what they can manifest with their intention, their visualization, and holding a vision was part of the theme for October. The week before we did the holding the vision itself. We spoke about holding a vision and what that would look like as a process. And this week I promised to talk about timelines and different dimensions. And I felt that kind of led into where we're at now. So if you've been following a lot of the ascension energies and the spiritual updates, there's been a lot of talk about how we're shifting onto a new timeline. And that's kind of why I'm saying, you know, we're in that phase now of, we've been like shifting since the beginning of the year. We had infinite ingredients that we could put together and put ourselves, rebuild ourselves, regenerate ourselves as part of this Aries full moon. We had that regeneration. And we're leading into this ability now to finally step onto a complete new timeline. And that timeline, you could call it the path of liberation, spiritual liberation. It's where we're stepping out of the constraints of our ancestors, of karma, of time, of all these other aspects that have been holding us back, so we can become something new. And if you remember, a couple of weeks ago, we actually did a timeline shift where we drew 2 lines and did a little exercise to kind of help you understand that as a process to make it a bit more visible. And we've also done the balancing of the soul and the personality in preparation for this as well. So we've done all of those. But tonight I wanted to talk more about time and timelines in terms of how they can be useful in our self-discovery work, I guess is the best way to put it. So how have you all been doing? Hopefully we're all settled in and people can see I'm live now. Are we all sort of feeling, what sort of energy we're sensing? You know, like last week we were talking about energy and how do we create peace. So let's see if we can test you all and see if you can tune in to what kind of energy are you feeling right now? Because, you know, as quantum humans, becoming energy alchemists is part of what we're after. And the October energies was this stepping into a more crystalline version of being human, which are kind of like crystalline earth angels. It's that kind of heaven on earth integrated into a human body type person that we want to create. And that doesn't mean that we're all going to be healers. It just means that we're going to become so good at sensing energy that we'll know when we meet the truth. We know when we meet the people we want to work with. We're going to know when the project's the right project for us. We're going to know which direction to go in, all just by feeling and not having to intellectually do a pro and con list. You know, we don't have to go to that extreme anymore. We'll just feel it in our hearts to guide us on what we need to do. So what energies are you all feeling right now? Are you feeling aligned with the vision that we spoke about? Have you been able to define your vision for what you want to create? Have you noticed any changes, you know, in either your vision or in yourself? And are you becoming sort of more in flow? Are you feeling a bit more dissatisfied? Can you feel those kind of changes? Because with this Aries energy, we were regenerating into a new version. And when we do that, we're stepping into that dark night of the soul, because it's really hard to let go of our personality and our identity of what we are. So what have we got? So lots of activity in dream time, transforming or rescinding things. Heavy, but can feel the hope. So lighter than before, clear about what you want. Good. So the energy is there, but it might just feel a little bit hard to grasp as we're going through this clearing out. And it's not just us as individuals, but it is a more collective kind of clearing that's happening as we're moving into this November energy. And if you remember, the end of October, we said we were going to become more of these crystalline earth angels, this alchemist, this ability to transmute and generate our own energies to create the life that we want. But we have to get good at holding that vision. And the thing is, no matter how tough things get, how chaotic things get, it's that vision that keeps you going forward. Once you have that vision, it's that carries you into what you're meant to be doing. And it doesn't matter then how hard things get. That's how you get through chaos and crisis, is by holding that vision, which is a kind of faith in yourself, faith in, you know, what you see for yourself can be yours. It's all those kind of things, which is what we've been talking about since we started this podcast. So with the timeline shift that's coming, you know, lots of people are talking about us becoming ready for the golden era, because every cycle of civilization, I want to say advanced civilization maybe, has a kind of like a rise and a fall. It's not the first time this has happened. It's happened to many different cultures in many different eras. It's a regular thing that humans seem to manage to create. We end up getting from, say, a poor poverty kind of situation, we start becoming more innovative, we start creating technology, then we start becoming a bit more decadent. And it's interesting, I'm reading this book at the moment, and they said that, when we're in for a fall, because it's the time when we start worshipping actors, sports people, and celebrities, because that's decadent to actually be in a position that you're more interested in that than normal everyday stuff. And then when we pass through that phase of decadence, we then end up in the decline. And of course, that's what's been happening to us. So even though we're about to go into a new age, and the Renaissance was an example of that kind of breaking out from a period of decline and then coming up again, it's almost like the whole of humanity is going through a dark night of the soul in order for it to rise up again. But when the Renaissance came along, there was a lot of innovation, new ideas, and again, off the cycle went. So we have to understand that this is a repeating cycle. This is not the first time this has happened. And I say that because, yes, everybody's saying, yay, the golden age, how cool, we're moving into the golden. It's not going to happen without insistence of us doing something different. We really need to do something completely different than we've ever done before, because what we've done already has got us to where we are now. And if we really want that golden future, then we all have to be something different and behave differently and create change. If we don't do that, then we're just going to go through a sort of another cycle that's like half-hearted. And yes, it could be the golden age until we fall again. But, isn't it time now that we stop these 10-year cycles of, not 10 years, so these cycles that are going around? We've had 10 of them so far, I think, if I remember from this book. Isn't it time we ended those cycles and said, we're not doing this anymore? Rather than trying to be the rabbit and the hare and rushing around like the rabbit only to fall off the end, can we not take a more slow, progressive way? And I love it when TV kind of aligns with what I'm thinking and what's going through my mind, because I've been watching the Murdoch mysteries. I don't know if you guys watch that. And they're set in 1895. And part of the storyline always is inventions. And they just did a story on on Henry Ford and his motor car versus an electric car called the something Bullet at the time. So, back then they had a choice of electric or a motor car. Now, of course, we're all going back to electric now. But at the time, they implied that the reason the motor car won was because big oil had an interest in selling their oil, and that would be an obvious way to increase their sales. And that's what they were calling like a capitalist view of decisions. It wasn't like thinking of the greater good of the planet, the greater good of society. They were just thinking about the money. Now, of course, if they'd gone for the bullet, who knows where we'd have been with travel? Yes, perhaps we might not have gone as far, but then we wouldn't have known any difference. So we wouldn't have felt the kind of the tug of war of going back to electric now and the issues that that's causing us. But it's quite interesting, that there's always a point where there's two options and we have to choose which one we're going to go for. Now, at this point, here we are right before the golden era. And again, we're kind of in that point of choosing. Yes, we have the opportunity to be something different. That's what I'm trying to do with these podcasts, is to call out to people that are ready to be quantum humans, that are ready to be soul-led, that are ready to think of life on a more unity consciousness, of a more planetary balanced way than just simply on money. And if these people can spread the word, can speak their ideas into reality, actually take projects out into the world, then they're the people that are going to create the change that make this golden era more anchored on a more stable timeline than this cycle of going round and round through the various stages of decline. I'll see if I can find the pages of the book, because she did explain the different stages. So what we got going on here? So collapse of the old is chaos. Yeah, collapse of the old is chaos because people don't know what to expect. There's no regularity in it. It's not bad. Chaos isn't necessarily bad. Lots of the good things come out of chaos, but it is a chaos as the old structures collapse, because what people felt was their normal suddenly isn't. And the problem when that happens is it pushes us back into fear, into personality, into survival, into looking after for ourselves. It's much more selfish than looking at the bigger picture. And that's part of the collapse. So this is why, the more we get in touch with who we are, then the more stable we can be, doesn't matter what's going on around us, which is what the quantum human concept is all about. So I've got, yes, we're clear about what I want from Marta. Judy's also firmed up and considerably what she wants. Excellent. Jenny's yes here to create changes. Cool. So that's kind of, you know, what we're trying to do is to be resilient, connected to something a little different than the normal capitalist kind of view of things, so we can start bringing in a new era. Now, whilst we have these different cycles that have happened, you know, one that we can talk about quite easily is Atlantis. Now, I know Atlantis might seem a little bit far-fetched for some people that are watching this maybe, but for us as healers, we tend to talk about Atlantis a lot, even if we just look at it as an archetype. It was that cycle of rise into amazing technological advances and then into a huge collapse. And I think then you had Lemuria on the other side, which was much more, still quite advanced, but more advanced in consciousness than in technology, and a bit more focused still on their connection to the earth. So they didn't separate away from the planet, they kept their balance a bit more. And whether those things, you know, whether Atlantis actually existed, although I think, is it Plato actually talked about it existing, then if you look at a lot of the creation myths of different cultures, there is this kind of aspect of beings that came from somewhere with a lot of technology knowledge, such as Thoth, that went out into different corners of the world and then sort of boosted their civilizations with this knowledge. So that story does exist in a sort of mythological, or at least the creation stories of some cultures. And I think just reading books on that would be a good learning to help us see what could or could not come out of what we're doing now, and how we can start thinking about who we want to be in this new era, and how are we going to be a catalyst for something different. So Jenny's saying, yeah, always thought differently, and that's what we need. And this kind of fits in with the quantum human. I find that the people who think differently, who are possibly the people who can make a difference, haven't quite mastered that ability to take those different thoughts and use their creativity and their energy to actually create something big with it. You know, it's those people who are sometimes not as good at doing something, but they have a huge amount of confidence to get things done. And then there's these more quiet souls who are very soul felt and sort of very internalized with amazing ideas, but they just don't have the courage to spill it out into the world. And that's partly the quantum human as well, you know, quite intelligent, just don't quite know how to verbalize it, express it, to get it started, to find the right people, you know. It's that kind of next step that can be quite difficult for us. So it's about us becoming more like entrepreneurs, but our own version of them, these quantum human entrepreneurs, quantum human leaders, where we are starting to learn to manage both our invisible skills and our connection to our soul and our ability to read energy to be able to create this new era that we're going into. So I think, there was somebody else's book has just kind of called The Golden Era. And they're saying that the golden era future is soul-led. If we really want to move forward, it has to be soul-led. And again, we can look at artificial intelligence and we can see how that could go so wrong. You know, I've got a degree in computing and artificial intelligence, so it's not like I'm saying this out of fear. I love the ideas of what it can be, but I can also see how it can go wrong. Already, you know, we've got the strikes about creativity and how people are using AI to fill in people's persona. You can get fake accounts on YouTube, on Instagram, where they have somebody's head on top of somebody else's body, so it looks like the actor when it's actually not them at all. You can have AI read books and copy the voice of the author to write new books. So there's a lot of issues with AI that is taking away the creativity of humans. But like I said in the very first episode, which is why I say this is kind of coming around, the AI doesn't have the energy and the life force behind it that we as humans have. And if we become a society based off of AI-generated art, books, films, and all that kind of stuff, we're going to feel awfully empty and awfully lonely. It's just like if you were to have all your interactions in a metaverse or a virtual reality meetup room, how that energy would be lacking, and no amount of that kind of feedback, what's it called, haptic feedback, is when you get some sort of sensation that you can feel like you've touched somebody. No amount of that's going to fill into the true life force of the energy of the human body and how we interact energetically. So it's really about starting to understand that we have to make the decisions now in order to help that. So how this all fits in with the timelines is because we have the ability to find other versions of ourselves that have had some of these pre-experiences going through such a decline of civilization that we can go back and ask questions to. And whether that's your subconscious coming up with creative ideas, or whether you genuinely believe in past life, future lives, and parallel lives, it doesn't really matter, because whoever I take into one of these scenarios always brings something quite amazing back. And that's what we need to be able to access. And that's why I wanted to talk about timelines this week. So Marta's saying there's an art book about return of the golden age concepts in Renaissance. Yeah, lots of people are talking about it. 2030 is the date they're giving for that. And Charles is saying, so the collapse of Atlantis is comparable to the collapse of today. In what way? Do you know much about the Atlantis story, Charles? I don't know where to start with that, but the idea was that these beings became quite, so it was a city, it was very central, so people were like all in one place. They had a lot of power, they created a lot of technology, and somehow it just all ended. So, you know, it was on a trajectory for being like amazing, and then suddenly it just all blew up. And I'm guessing nobody really knows what happens, but it tends to feel like it was a power struggle of some sort, where that kind of greed and that kind of more out for yourself than out for looking after the whole group was lacking. I don't know if anybody else knows much about Atlantis they want to share on that, but just to give you like an overview of that. So if we can travel back in time and see different civilizations and experience them, then we can use that information to help us navigate, energetically navigate the times that are coming. Because again, we're looking for those energetic signatures that we spoke about last week. Like, how do we know that a decision, like whether we should go for the motor car or an electric car, if we're in that position, how do we know which to choose? Because we'll know what it should feel like when it's of service to everyone, and when it's more of service to companies or corporations or individuals. And that's the aim of any past life kind of journey that we can take right now. Because the end of October was really emphasizing this step into our, it's just a time travel. And to me, that kind of feels like, you know, the time bending, yes, that we don't have to follow the rules of time anymore, but also this ability to take travel into the future and get insights from a future version of you, to go into a past and see the past version of you, to go into the parallel lives and find all your soul parts that have split up and pull them back to see what information you all have. And all of this can then be used to build your own narrative of what you're here to do. Because at the end of the day, you know, we all have our own bubble of what we're here for. And we might not understand how we all fit together necessarily. But we don't have to worry about that. We just have to get our bit right. If we get our bit right, if we all focus on each of us getting our bits right, then it'll all come together in the right way, because the energy will just attract those that need to be there. But if we're flipping between, oh, maybe I should do this because your personality is in fear, versus maybe I should do something for money, or maybe I should do something because that's how it's always been done, then you're not following your soul, you're just following the old regime, the old patterns, the old ways of doing things. And we really need to step out of that and start thinking completely differently and creating a new way of being. So Sharon said, I read Zeus struck Atlantis down with an earthquake and lightning, I think because they had become perverse and didn't want to change. Yeah, I think that's the kind of the reference to this kind of too power hungry, and yeah, the change, like any civilization, you know. And the interesting thing, you know, technology is meant to be our savior in a way. Sometimes humans act like it's almost like we act like we could fix all the problems, and that's great, but we created the problems in the first place. So, you know, a lot of the plastics that we're cleaning up were an invention and a progress kind of state at some point. A lot of other issues that we'll have in the future will be innovative today. So it's kind of like that long-term future view is missing sometimes, or at least they don't care maybe. But it's like you look forward and you think, well, why did we do this? If, you know, now we're trying to get rid of plastics, now we're trying to get rid of fossil fuel cars. But it's like, well, why did we even create them in the first place? What was the incentive behind it? And that's what we want to try and start looking at. So based on this, let's talk a bit more about timelines. So has anybody here ever done a past life or a future life or a parallel life trip? I've taken a soul journey into something like this. Yeah, and I know Jenny and Marta would say yes, because I have taken them myself. So it's quite interesting when it comes to future life. When I take people into their future, it sounds like a simple idea, but it never is, because the first future people often go to, especially the people I work with, because they're not very good at visualizing sometimes, or they find it hard because there's this block that's just blocking them from seeing themselves doing something amazing. And it kind of leads to that, like, how big can you dream question. I find that people, their first vision is often, and again, I think this is like the quantum human problem, perhaps, for the people I'm looking to work with, is that their first vision has been defined by something outside of them, either the parents, peer, society. And because their sense of self is a little bit loose, because they've been following what's been told to them that has to be followed, then their future vision is a little bit loose too. So tightening that up is the first thing. But it's only when we first go to that future life do I actually find then what's blocking them. And I use that almost like a diagnosis tool. Some people are even too scared to see their future because they don't want to see themselves as an older person. But I try to avoid that, and we just tend to go to their best future so we can see what that looks like, rather than actually just looking down the line of where we are now. Because even if I showed you your future today, you could do something different tomorrow that completely changes that. So it's, the future's not fixed, is what I'm trying to say. So we can't like say, yeah, that's definitely going to happen. It's a possibility. It's one of the timelines you could go to if you aligned all your ducks in the right way to get that. But you have to line all the ducks to get there, obviously. Now, when I go to past lives, sometimes people get a little bit excited and go, oh, I was Buddha in a past life, or I was, I can't think who man would want to be King Arthur, or some sort of priest or priestess or witch or goddess. And they get so stuck on the image of what they see that they miss the lesson of it. So for me, going back to a past life, it's about the subconscious showing me something that we need to learn, something that's holding us back that we need to cut so that we can move forward. And when we go back to past lives, that's how I look at them. I'm examining them to find out what do they want us to know so that we can move forward more freely. Now, because time is not linear, then technically there is no past or future. So that gets a little bit more confusing, but I thought I'd leave that after the sentence of the past and the future. So there are people that I'm also sort of taking into future lives that are their past lives. So they've kind of been there, had those experiences, and come back to a certain degree. So time frames for me now is just a simple concept of, let's go to wherever you need to go to find out what's blocking you, or let's go to your best life and see what you need to see to help encourage you towards something different. And once we've done that, then we look at where you are now, and you can then say, right, so this is where I am now. This is what I could be. If you like what you see and you resonate with what you see, then how do we get from here to there? Or we can go back to the past and go, okay, so in the past we had this issue. Do you think that issue is playing some role now in the present? Yes, okay, let's heal it. So you can now move past that. So that's what timelines are about, and that's the power of timelines brings. So for me, it's a self-discovery journey. It's a way of really connecting to your multidimensional soul, to seeing yourself as being more than just this one being here in front of you right now. And the interesting thing is, I've worked with a couple of healers doing this kind of work, and one lady said she always wanted to be an author. And I took her back to her past life, and she was like so detailed in what she could see. She was describing so much detail of this. I think it was like an American war. I don't know which one, but she was definitely in the sort of colors of an American soldier. And the way she was sitting there talking to me, acting, body was moving, she was this young boy who had gone off to war. And when she came back round, and I think it was later in the afternoon, I spoke to her and said, so what do you want to be? And she said, an author. And I just thought, why do you want to be an author? All you have to do is record your past lives. You're already writing, you're telling the story. You've got it there to use. So some people have it because they're meant to narrate it. They're meant to bring those stories forward. And I even argue sometimes that filmmakers are possibly time travelers in some form. You think of some of the movies like Men in Black or Douglas Adams and what they saw, and even Lord of the Rings, where did that stuff come from? So time traveling doesn't have to be this daunting kind of experience. I think we have connections to these different time frames and ideas in our everyday. It's just we're not always ready to recognize it. And one of the skills of being a quantum human is that starting now to pay more attention to it and actually turning it into one of your strengths. So how does that feel? Who wants to be time travelers? Charles is saying, I think this is to do with the fall of Atlantis. Corporate reimagining of our lives is how it started. So that's why we have to reimagine it a different way. And the more we reimagine and the more we build a movement of our own individual visions that we have, then the more people will join us. And then obviously we can build momentum up from there. And there's lots of people who have businesses that have done this kind of movement type approach of bringing people together with the same vision, same mission, and have achieved a lot, whether that's building schools in Africa, clean water, whatever the initiative is, people can do this. You don't have to be part of a corporate to do it. I think there's even conscious capitalism now as well. So there's lots of different aspects of it coming up around the place. Love time traveling, it makes sense. So Charles, have you ever done any time traveling? I can't remember. I think you said not, but I can't remember. Just let me know. So in terms of time traveling, what I think we need to do for October is really to finalize our vision and to help us now start turning it into something real. Is we need to start visiting different versions of ourselves to gather up more insights. And there's a lot of power to be attained from that. And that's what the energy was telling us about this month. Any questions on that? I should point out, when I first did some of my first traveling type things, I didn't see anything. It wasn't until somebody told me to sense what I could sense that I started seeing what was going on. Mine tends to come in quite big flashes, and it doesn't have to be a meditation even. I could just get these flashes or experiences randomly. So it's not like you have to go and sit down with a hypnotherapist to have these experiences. It can be just part of your everyday communication. It's just, each of us has our own way of talking with the divine, and we think it's normal that everybody does the same. And it's only when you talk to other people who are like us that you realize, actually, no, it's a gift. Not everyone does do it the same. Some people can see auras, some people can see colors, some people can just know stuff instantly and connect to energy and know, like, memories of reading a book suddenly become like, whoa, that's a bit vivid because you've been there and already experienced it. So there's lots of ways for this to happen. It's not all such a simple process of, I have to sit down, I have to find a hypnotherapist, and I have to be regressed. It's happening more easily. And I think that's part of the quantum human that I've been trying to talk about for the last however many weeks, is that our sensing abilities are coming online. There's more of this invisible abilities coming online. And just we need to start paying attention to it and starting to explore it playfully. Oh, okay. Jenny says that Kenny sees auras. Cool. And the thing is, if you don't know, how do you know that you're the only one that sees it that way and other people don't? We don't talk about this stuff normally. So that's cool. So that kind of summarizes the October energies. We've spoken about a vision. What method would we use to gather up the versions of ourselves? So what I've been playing with is, so the parallel lives are the hardest bit. That was when my brain really got screwed a bit, because I couldn't understand why people had so many parallel lives. And I mean, like, the people I'm working with had many, many, many parallel lives. And I was like, well, I can't go through each of them trying to work out what they are. But what I'm working on, the theory I'm working on at the moment, is that some of us who are here to like fast track humanity, to evolve humanity quickly, have purposely split themselves. So we know that, you know, from shamanic soul retrieval, we can be split through trauma. But I'm thinking there's a more conscious split that we've been doing, sending parts of ourselves out to have the experiences like a research team. So splitting ourselves into this research team, sending ourselves out to have all of these multiple experiences at the same time to speed up and accelerate our understanding. So what I've been doing is having kind of like in the divine matrix, having as place, creating a room on the divine matrix and calling in like a meeting of parts and asking the parts to come in and then share what they want to share. Now, some of those parts might want to go back and carry on with whatever they're doing. Some of them have finished their work and are ready to merge back in. So we're playing with that as a concept at the moment to see if that's going to help us bring in insights from the split that we've done. And it is a kind of, the research can be anything from emotional, from, it sounds awful, but like, it's almost like testing out the range of humanity's abilities. That's kind of what it feels like. It's like testing out how easy the human body can connect to higher consciousness, how they process emotions, how to alter DNA. There's all that kind of stuff going on, as well as, you know, testing out different theories on how to progress humanity. It's quite so yeah, I kind of see it like a science team that I call together, and we have a meeting and we ask each other, you know, what have you got? What can you give us as updates? So that seems to be the current plan anyway. So I suggest trying that and perhaps reporting back and let me know. But that's the one I'm playing with at the moment. So Charles says it hasn't been your focus. I'm guessing that's with the traveling. So typically when I go back to the past, I go back as far as I possibly can in an incarnation to say, what is the source of a particular problem? And we have to be very careful of divine will, and we all have our own will to not be changed. So none of us exists on this planet without having our timelines interlapping and intertouching and interlacing with others. So it's almost a bit like cosmic surgery, kind of checking through this. But it is possible to go back and glean new information from old situations. Excuse me a minute. So it kind of felt like at one point we had a new skill called retrocognizance. And the way I saw that was that it was the ability to look at a situation, not as in hindsight, because hindsight implies that hindsight felt more of a 3D concept. Retrocognizance was more of a 5D concept, is perhaps the best way to explain it. So rather than just simply looking at the 3D incidents and going, oh yeah, in hindsight, I see why that happened or what I did, or this is more about your soul saying, okay, I couldn't tell you this at the time because you weren't ready to hear it. But look at this again, because there's something there that you weren't able to receive before, but now you can. That's what retrocognizance is showing. Wow, it's 2040 already. It goes so quick. So those are a couple of like timeline type shifts and changes that are happening, I guess. And I find because ascension is shifting the frequency, shifting the opening doors to new consciousness and shifting the timelines, and it's just like opening new aspects, opening all the time, that we can, you know, with intelligent questioning and critical questioning, we can actually ask the right questions to find out how we can now use these new insights and this new information to work on a different level ourselves. But, you know, there's that multidimensional soul is vaster than we can imagine, I guess. You know, it's got so much intelligence out there. I think once I sat down and I asked because obviously we're talking a lot about 5D at the moment, and more people are. And I asked, well, how many dimensions are there? And at first I said the 144, that's the number seems to come up a lot. I'm kind of curious why 144, but it seems to be the number. But then it said, in your current human form, 144. So that kind of implied to me that as our bodies are evolving, there's actually more to be attained. So I don't tend to hold that number in like a rigid form. I just know that there's that many to explore and that one day there could be more. And I'm not going to be closed-minded when that happens. I'll be open and ready to receive that information. And that's kind of what you discover as you go through the different timelines and explore your parts of you then that are doing various work in different levels. So before I wrap it up, I do something quickly with the timeline. Yeah, it probably would take a bit long. What I might do is I might load up a separate video to give you a past life experience. I'll just have to think of a safe one that could be fun to play with. But failing that, you know, if you always join me on the full moon, we often do future past life stuff on that as well. And we take cosmic journeys too, because, you know, we can talk about past lives and present and future and parallel, but some of these lives are non-physical. The architecture of the body is different. The places that they're having the experiences are not as human, but sometimes they're still relevant and they've still got critical information for us. So translating that can be a bit of a challenge if you've never done that kind of thing before. So if you do take a future or past life and all you see is colored gases, that's how I used to be a lot. And it's more of an energetic visit of an energetic body of a version of yourself. So, you know, it's all about being good at interpreting and learning the language of your soul, I guess. And that's when you get a bit more information too. So to summarize, we have to get good at holding that vision, understanding energy, and starting to create what we're really here to do, which is becoming better versions of ourselves, becoming that blend of yeah, Jenny saying the purple gas one was, yeah, we visited a version of Jenny that was a purple gas. And it was her boss, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it's all about the questions you ask to get the insights in the end. But yeah, so it's all about that, getting that vision, to hold a vision. And we've done 2 examples now. We did the vision of work 2 weeks ago, and then we did peace last week to show you how to hold just a single frequency without the full version of the vision. I was hoping we'd have time to do a more galactic one this time, but maybe we'll do that another time. And as I said, the next few months, I've already done a quick check into November's energy, and it's very much a embodiment energy of nurturing your physical body to support the changes that are going to be coming on. But I'll talk more about that in 2 weeks' time. So I feel like this is a natural end to this, where we started talking about creative energy and AI and the timeline that we're on. And now we've come back around to timelines and saying, okay, so this whole series has been about the steps to awaken parts of you, transmitting these sort of frequencies and codes and templates to you to help you be more prepared for this next phase of humanity. And that really does depend on, you can't create what you can't vision. If you are limited in your vision by constraints of family or peers or even 3D constraints, then you might miss a trick. If you're too focused on problems than solutions, then you're not going to come up with the best solutions. So it's really about expanding our creativity into new dimensions, really expanding the mind, but also the heart, because that's where the soul information comes through, is the heart. And between those two, allowing yourself to dream bigger and bigger each time, and then to find the courage to step forward and actually start taking action on those dreams. So hopefully, if you've missed me while I'm gone over the next few months, then replay the series, go back to the beginning and listen, because there's always something new to learn the next time round. Or you can join me on the full moons when we're doing those. And the next one's in Taurus, so that kind of fits in the November energy of being more physical, managing your resources, starting to kind of put the physical plans together. And I'm going to be doing a dancing with energy on the equinox. I think it's by the 21st of December-ish. I'll have to check the date. It's a Sunday. I'll do a dancing with energy to help us embody some of this energy as well. So dancing with energy is where we use movement and energy. So we kind of bring energies in, and then we use movement to help our bodies integrate it. So it's a conscious movement, almost like a healing modality, to sense energies and to tap into them and then see how they flow through your body and what insights you get. So that's always fun to do. So far, interestingly, I pulled a card to see what that one's going to be about, and it's the divine matrix still. So I suspect we're going to be dancing our way into the divine matrix and experience it as a physical experience as well as just as a mental. So that sounds like fun as well. So like I said, this is going to be my last one of this series. I'm going to take a break until the end of January, but I will come back on the first Monday of November and December, not so much in January, might be a bit later, to give you the energy updates at the very least. So remember, my energy updates are all about soul visions. I don't do energy updates generically. It's always focused on how to get people into their best soul vision and to become quantum humans. That's what I'll be sharing. So thank you all for being with me on this journey so far, and hopefully I'll see you more on the energy updates. And for the next year, who knows what the subject will be? I didn't know what this one was going to be. It was quite interesting to see how this was going to go. So if you've got any questions, then always add them to the message underneath the videos. I can come back and always answer you there. But if you do want to chat more with me as well, you can join my Facebook group, and that's Higher Consciousness Living. And I can put that, I think that's already in the links underneath the videos anyway, so you can come and join us there and we can share and ask questions there too. So thank you everyone for joining me on this journey, and I'll see you in 2 weeks' time for the November energies. And otherwise, have a great time traveling. Thanks, guys. Bye.